Here's a brief history of capitalism. So what is capitalism? What does it have to do with inequality? To answer this, we're going to have to go on a little history adventure. Are you ready? If so, please go down to the bottom, hit that like button, sub button, bell button, and let us know what your idea and concept of capitalism is. Let's get straight into it. Poor people's lives were bleak in the 18th century. You can end up as a servant if you're lucky. Everyone else is a low-wage laborer who moves from job to job, follows the work, and is treated whatever the landowners desire. Of course, there were no perks, no health care, no free education, nothing at all. Poverty is therefore a death sentence. What's more astonishing is that in the 18th century, the average life expectancy was only 17 years old. Money, lending, and land ownership are what capital looks like at the moment. You have a man who sits in a fort and essentially demands taxes from everybody who works on his territory. And we have a general idea of what that looks like thanks to a variety of films. Inheritance is the passion of the wealthy. It's a pretty stringent rule of contact. The capital is given to the eldest son. He inherits everything, the money, the home, and the land, and as a result, he's extremely powerful, despite the fact that he was born by chance. These land-owning males, these first sons, wield enormous political power, and as many of them are members of parliament and the elites. As a result, they are motivated by the desire to safeguard their own money and environment. And it just doesn't occur to them that impoverished people deserve some economic transfer. They are admittedly opposed to taxation. And this is how the aristocratic operated, not only in Britain but across Europe. With the goal of preserving aristocratic rule, money gets married to money. Love has nothing to do with it. And what we're seeing today is practically a return to the 18th century. In Britain, hereditary wealth reigns supreme once more. 70% of our land is now owned by 1% of the people. There's always been an elite which is generally excellent at passing on its privilege from generation to generation, monopolizing both economic and social and cultural wealth. The elite maintain their power and pass on their advantages to the next generation through influencing how we think. In the past, economists have claimed that inequality is a major promoter of growth, innovation, and arguing that the competition motivates individuals to strive harder. This issue is that the high inequality appears to be a source of significant economic, social, and political stress. Because if you have a situation where an elite are so rigidly protective of their ranks that nobody can ever rise, there's no social mobility, you tend to end up with a full-blown revolution. Liberté, égalité, fraternité was the flag of the French Revolution. It will be a fraternity and everybody will be free. However, within a short period of time, you have this banker-led administration which begins to recreate the elites. The Industrial Revolution is what we witnessed in the late 18th and 19th centuries. It substitutes machines for people's labor. So you bring in machines to create wool, cotton, and a variety of other good things. This speeds up the production of goods, standardizes and increases profit. Your land or even your ability to lend money is no longer a stable source of capital. You finally have to find out how to expand your business by sort of selling things, retaining profits, and then reinvesting the earnings in expanding your factory. And that's really what capitalism in its present form allows us to do. Capital becomes this creature that can, in a sense, increase infinitely. This entire concept sprang from the desire to flee the old world and establish a new, more equitable society. When the New World countries were founded, such as New Zealand, Australia, and Canada, these locations were founded by immigrants from Europe and at a period where capitalism was gaining traction. That is why many of these people decided to leave these countries. They desired a more egalitarian society. It was the concept of breaking out from the class structure, but it was mostly done in a free-willing manner. And by large, it wasn't a political movement. And from the beginning, it was an affluent who dominated. But it's pointless to increase output if no one wants to buy it. As a result, the Industrial Revolution was propelled by fashion. By the 19th century, fashion had become an all-encompassing religion. Even the working class are affected. Even working class ladies attempted to keep up with the latest trends. The notion that you're not allowed to wear it, that was from the previous season. A 16th or 17th century person would find that weird. They believe, well, it's still functional and long-lasting. I'll dress in the same way. It's truly this time of massive struggle with outright warfare between strikers and armed militia recruited by capitalists in Colorado mines. And the massive usage of U.S. federal army at this time is striking. Similarly, now we are witnessing a complete economic change involving both trade and technology, which has the exact same quality of generating several monopolies. As a result, it's creating another small class of extremely affluent individuals. The British Empire was so strong that it controlled both a fourth of the global population. The other nations were vying for a piece of the cake. Germany in particular was eager to have a piece of the action. At its core, World War I is a struggle for power. And then there's this tremendous post-war economic downturn. So after World War I, you have this new concept based on the fact that the government is bankrupt, that the tax is not terrible, and that it may potentially be beneficial. And taxing this aristocracy is the only way you're going to obtain money. There's little left to tax amongst the working and middle class. As a result, you can observe the beginning of the aristocratic power decline. In the 1920s, you can also see the rise of the government. We want to be heard. Look, we put in a lot of effort for this war for you. We made a sacrifice. You must return something to us. So in the 1920s, the entire concept that the working class and the women must sit there and accept society as it is entirely overthrown. There was a surge in stock prices, but investors continued to bid in a stock market because they believed in the Wall Street's magic. We have a notion in this country, particularly in the financial sector, that what's good for Wall Street is what's good for Main Street, but that has never been the case. Following the financial crisis, countries all over the world became embroiled in a trade war. Tariffs were implemented, which would set off a snowball effect that caused greater hardship throughout the world, contributing to the Great Depression. Price fixing, enormous changes in labor rates, all of these things were unprecedented in American history, and they unquestionably led to a massive infrastructure development and remarkable redistribution. The possibility of a communist alternative frightened the capitalist world into believing that unless it addressed some of the most basic inequality concerns, it would lose the war for ideas. Roosevelt took certain concepts from the New Deal, such as the government's extensive participation in the economy and severe regulation. There was a strong understanding that fundamental social stability cannot be achieved until the government attempted to address job creation and redistribution to protect people from starving. The Wall Street catastrophe caused poverty in America and the UK, but it has a major impact on Germany, which already was impoverished. Following World War I, they were subject to harsh reparations, which required them to pay large sums of money to other countries. And then there was Weimar Republic, or Germany as it was called, in the 1920s, which had a horrendous inflation that a full barrel of banknotes couldn't purchase a loaf of bread at one time. The emergence of fascism in Europe during the 1930s and acute poverty are inextricably linked. In the aftermath of World War II, the socio-economic environment has changed drastically. You're witnessing the most significant shift in views you've ever witnessed. I can tell you it's not the same as it used to be. It was a step towards establishing a compensation system. We've considered ill-paid vacation compensation. In the United Kingdom, they established the National Health Service, which provides free health care from birth to death. It was a step towards nationalism of an industry, as well as a step towards inheritance, property, and wealth taxation. Capital was likewise constrained to the United States in the 1950s. Apartment rents are regulated and landowners are subject to restrictions. Capital can't just go anywhere at once. It can't just grow. Capital must be tamed like a rogue horse. The importance of a large middle class in politics cannot be overstated. It's a part we're known as modernization, which is based on the premise that as your money improves, your hard effort and study can lead you to the top for the first time. There was oil. This oil shock has affected the industrialized economy as oil is used in almost everything. Globalization is beginning to take shape. The world's developing markets are coming online. Europe is regaining its footing, with Germany resuming its role as a manufacturer. A number of European companies become more competitive. The global landscape is shifting. The United States capital no longer has the entire globe to itself. Welcome to the 70s. With this, I wrap the first part of this video. Stay tuned for part 2. Thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I hope you learned a thing or two and of course enjoyed it. It's a labor of love to share this kind of knowledge. So if you want to see more content like this one, hit the like button, sub button, bell button, and I'll see you next time. Peace.